Hello and welcome back to one of Let's Plays. Today we're going to be looking at a really obscure PS1 game called Vib-Ribbon. And just at the start, in case you want to know what it's all about, I'm actually going to let the main character Vib-Ribbon explain it all. Alright, what Vib-Ribbon said. There's your overview of the game, so it's one where you have to avoid all the obstacles along a line in time to the music, but how about we go into the game itself? And for part 1, I'm actually going to look at the Vib-Ribbon discs. There is another feature for this, but I'd rather cover that in part 2, because believe me, it's amazing for what the PS1 could do. But first off, Vib-Ribbon reads everything that you do, and it's so cute to watch. She does that for literally everything you do, even like navigating through the menus and everything. She'll just read it out, and it's a really nice touch to the game. For this video, I'm going to be tackling through the disc, but I'm also going to be going through the bronze, silver, and gold courses, basically to give you some sort of example or an overview of what Vib-Ribbon has to offer. In my opinion, this is one of my favorite rhythm games of all time, mainly just for how simplistic it is and how just innovative it can be at times, especially in part 2 when we look at the secret thing that I'm explaining about. But one thing that I do find myself doing from time to time in this game, or at least all the time, is you might have seen in the intro that Vib-Ribbon herself was explaining how to avoid all these obstacles when you press the buttons in time to the music. You can do that, but like you see here, half the time I just like to freestyle along the empty line. I find that with this game, the more you feel the music and press your buttons in time to whatever, the better you do. And if you press the buttons off screen, or at least across the line when you're not going across the obstacles, that actually adds to more bonus points towards your score. So that can be even better if you're trying to aim for the silver and gold medals. Because this is a PSN game, or at least a game released on the PS1, though there's no achievement system, so it's really just a matter of the achievement you get for it is the fact that you've just reached the score for yourself, really. Vib-Ribbon has also changed a bit of her appearance right here. I mean, she's wearing a crown with a cape. That's because if you get a string of combos when trying to avoid the obstacles, you get these little dots forming around her. If you manage to form a full circle with no mistakes, she changes form. And the highest form you can get is Queen Vib-Ribbon, which, when you actually get her, it adds to more towards bonus points. So that's actually to secure your way to make sure that you hit all the high scores here and there. But if you do take a damage, you go down a character. Like right now, if I took a hit from one of these things, I would lose Queen Vib-Ribbon and she would just go back to her normal self. And the more obstacles you hit, the more deformed the line gets. And that can be distracting in a good way, really, because it means that if you really don't keep in time to the beat, you can screw yourself over. And if you mess up a couple more times, she morphs down into a version of a frog. If you screw up more after that, it's then to a worm, and then further on, that's it, you're dead, and you have to start the course all over again. Luckily, it didn't happen in this video, but that's probably because I've played this game a lot of times. As it was only just recently that I found out, or at least remembered, that this game is on PSN. This is pretty big for me because, unfortunately, while this is one of my favorite rhythm games, it's pretty rare to come by these days. When you look up this game on eBay, it's pretty damn hefty and expensive, especially when you're tracking down an original complete and box copy with the manual and the disc and just everything mint condition. It's gonna be pretty ghastly. Luckily, it's been released on the PSN for a really cheap price. In my area, it was £4. That is a godsend, so I was kind of happy that I could actually play this game because it was only last year that I decided to pick up a PS3 for myself, and then I thought, oh yeah, I can actually pick up some PS1 games which are ultra rare now, and play it on my PS3 instead, so that's a really good solution to this. This game, by the way, if you live in the States, for example, say North America, you might have never heard of this game before in your life. That's because this game unfortunately didn't get released in the States. It got released in Japan and Europe only. In Japan, it was released on December the 12th, 1999. However, Europe got it on September the 1st, 2000, so it came out much later after its release in Japan. I don't know why it's really that late, but never mind, because I mean, I think you can see just by looking at the game, it was released in Japan. Of course, it's a Japanese game, hence by the visuals and as well as like the soundtrack in the background too. Because the music in this game is actually by a band called Laugh and Peace, which made this J-pop soundtrack to Vib-Ribbon. And there's actually a lot of experimentation with different tracks here and there. Like at the very beginning, the first one that you heard was simple beats here and there in time to the obstacles, whereas the second one is a lot more upbeat. It's mainly to see what the obstacles react with, because the more upbeat tracks are, that is the more times that the obstacles show up here and there, especially when the tempo changes and you see Vib-Ribbon run faster. It's all dependent on what the music is. The first one was called Polaroid, which is one I explained about where it's all experimental, but the one that we're hearing right now is called Sunny Day. The lyrics are also English, so half the time I can't really understand what they're saying, but even still, I still think it's a damn good track for this one. Unfortunately, I screwed up at the end for this. That's kind of a shame. But now, how about we have a look at the high score, and just let Vib-Ribbon read it all. By the way, she does that every time you get the high score on any of these things. I've noticed she actually has different variations though. If you get the high score and get to silver level, she adds additional voice lines here and there. And even so, when you get to the gold one, you'll find that when we clear the gold course. I did find that really weird though when I did this run of Vib-Ribbon. The only time I managed to reach the gold, like the very top one, was literally on the gold course, so fancy that, eh? This next song though that we're hearing is, funnily enough, called Laugh and Peace, which is actually the name of the band, so the fact that it's literally a song in reference to the band's name is damn good. This is where things start to pick up here and there, especially with the tempo and things going on. The score at the very top, by the way, you might be a bit confused about, because all you see literally at the top of the center with the screen is all these symbols. Every time you go across an obstacle, the symbols change. And that's actually your score that gets added towards the end of the game. I don't know really why they couldn't just make it numbers. Perhaps maybe it was a little bit distracting here and there, so they just decided to make it symbols. But I don't know. I think it just adds well to the aesthetics anyway for this game. That's for sure. The vocals can be very strange here and there. And even though Bronze was really easy to go through, this is where tempo really comes into play. Because right now, you are going to hear that the song suddenly starts slowing down. And at times, the rhythm that you felt whilst playing through it and keeping along with the tempo will change and catch you off guard. That I really like because it just adds challenge here and there. Like as you saw earlier, I managed to lose Queen Vib-Ribbon, but fortunately I got her back nice and easily like that. Another reason I probably did okay in this run is because I was playing this literally hooked up to my CRT television. Because, oh my god, I've at least noticed when you play rhythm games, you really need to make sure your TV doesn't have any input latency, otherwise that really throws you off. When I played this hooked up to my HD television, it was horrible, so I had to hook it up to the old one. Also, this is where things get really weird. You might find there are times I do screw up because I get overzealous. Half the time I'll be enjoying those songs so much and mashing the buttons in time to music that I'll think, oh my god, look at me, I'm doing so good, and then I'll just take a hit and then just lose most things. And it also gives an example for what I talked about where the whole wave lines just wave about, as you can see. If you don't take a hit once, the lines stay how they are. And when you're Queen Vib-Ribbon, they are super solid to go through. But the more damage you take, the more it does. However, when you shift into the other forms, it doesn't really do that as much. The song that we're hearing right now is called Universal Dance, actually. This used to be my favourite song in the game. I mean, I still like it, it's damn good. But I've found that over time, the more I've listened to the soundtrack, my favourite one has to be on the Gold course, that we're pretty much going to come up to right after we've done this course. The actual track, though, in Universal Dance is somewhat a bit kind of repetitive here and there, but I found a way just to make it a bit more challenging for myself. This is now one of the most memorable obstacle tracks in this game for me compared to, like, all of the other songs. And as you can see, I often just love to tap the music in time to the lyrics and just anything that goes on. Just, like I say, feel the music, man. That's the best way that you can do it. On this bit, you're actually just supposed to press the X button in time to the spikes. But when I was explaining about going along with the music, you can literally do that, because right now I am actually pressing L and X, instead of literally just pressing X, 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 X. Instead, the combo goes like LX, 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 LX. That wasn't actually in time of it, but you get the picture, right? L is to jump, and then X is to avoid the spikes. Vib-Ribbon did explain about this at the beginning, and she even gave us an example of, like, a pit combined with spikes, meaning I had to press L and then down, because you get given 4 different combinations. You have X, which is spikes, L, which is ledges, or blocks, should I say. Then you have down, which is pits, and then R, which is loops. And at times, they will combine the two. And it's up to you to really find out what the combination is. Because like she said before at the start, you really need to look up those yourself in the manual. I guess they didn't really want the intro to drag on for too long, but in ways you do kind of figure out here and there. I'll be talking about that though when we get onto the Gold course, which is literally just after this level. And by the way, on the normal disc for Vib-Ribbon, there's literally about 6 songs, and that's it. You might say that's short, but believe me, in part 2, the game really opens up with more possibilities here and there. I don't want to say about it right now because I'd rather say it towards the end of this video just to basically tell you what it's all about. Kinda sucks that I screwed it up at the very end. I also just like to make her have a seizure at the end for some reason. You can actually skip through the high scores for this, but I always just love watching them myself. Maybe just because it's satisfying, and just watching her read that score in like some sort of low quality. It's almost like the quality, I guess, whenever you play the Shenmue games, really. But even though since they have like really low quality on the Shenmue games, they are also really good. But now we're on to Gold, the hardest one. This is where the true challenge comes across, as well as reference into what Vib-Ribbon said at the very beginning. Combine the two because, like you see, we have a loop combined with spikes, meaning that means we have to press R and X at the same time. If you thought the game was easy at the beginning, oh boy, you're about to see stuff which makes it a hell of a lot more harder for you, because sometimes you really have no time to react at all to these things coming. But I've played through these tracks so many times that most of the time I just get it at the back of my head. Like with these, it's L and down because it's pits combined with blocks. Like I said before, blocks was L and then pits was down. And it does really clever ways to combine it. That's the thing that really stands out for me the most in Vib-Ribbon. It's so simplistic, yet so creative, and just the possibilities are pretty much endless half the time, especially with the combinations and the fact that you get to freestyle. Except trying to aim for the silver and gold courses, you really have to be on your toes. I feel like if you actually just play through the game normally without freestyling in your own time going across the lines, you will not achieve it. Also, this bit gets nuts. Hopefully I won't get copyrighted for that bit, because that bit was actually sped up for that side of the song, so I don't really want to get demonetized for this video, and hopefully things should go well here and there. PS3 is actually the best version to get of this though, mainly because of a thing that, again, I will mention in part 2, but it's just damn right more cheaper and more efficient, and it actually packs in more functionality here and there. Cadicarus did a video of this back in 2014, which basically explains more about it in case you want to get an insight on it. It's definitely a more comical version of this, because I'm no funny guy when it comes to videos, that's for sure. Just leave it to Cadicarus for it if you want to see that side of things, really. I just feel like doing a one-off let's play of it here and there. These spikes are combined with loops, so therefore it's R and then down. Except you can actually do the up button as a preference. Vib-Ribbon will tell you that you have to press down for the spikes, but half the time, if you just experiment with all of the buttons on the PS1 controller, you'll find something that balances enough for you. I make it look easy, but believe me, when you play this for yourself, it is a hell hard. Especially when you're playing it on a monitor with blimmin' input latency. That's for sure. That thing just throws you off completely. Rhythm game-wise, I didn't really play too much rhythm games, except the one that I remember playing the most, which got me into rhythm games in the first place, was actually Rhythm Paradise for the DS, except I think in the States, or at least the NTSC version of the game, it's called Rhythm Heaven, as far as I'm aware. And then on the Wii version it was called Rhythm Heaven Fever, but over where I am it was called Beat the Beat Rhythm Paradise. That game really got me into rhythm games. There was like a really weird way to repeat the line, but yeah, it really did. I remember back in 2008 when I first played the game, it was so just weird, but god damn, it got me really the hang of rhythm here and there. Especially when I moved on to play other rhythm games like the Bit Trip series. Like, I really like Bit Trip Runner, except I played it on the WiiWare version instead of XBLA and Steam, really, so I played kind of the less better version here and there. Because nowadays you can pick up like the whole entire saga, but I had to buy them like really separately when WiiWare was a thing. Isn't it kind of weird that WiiWare is going to become non-existent at some point? Because it's literally in January that they shut the whole entire thing down. They've closed the function of being able to add Wii points, and then in January, just that's it, the Wii Shop channel is dead completely. I still have points remaining, so maybe I need to spend a couple of those here now. I don't want to go on about that too much though, as we're literally on the final track. And this song really likes to troll with you. It really does. Because the song just speeds up out of nowhere from time to time. But I don't really find that a problem, because it's really all about staying on your toes with this game. Like literally, they could throw a whole bunch of stuff at you, and you will be prepared if you literally just keep with the rhythm yourself. This is great. I also like how the camera just swings around here because it gives you a bit of breathing space, because I get the feeling that if you played through this constantly from beginning to end, your fingers would ache a bit from pressing all of the buttons here and there. So it's nice to see that they give you at least some sort of time to think and breathe. Especially when you freestyle pressing all of the different combination of buttons here and there. It's kind of a shame though that when you do freestyle, and then you say for instance press L and down, she doesn't perform a unique move. All she literally does is 4 different moves when going across the line. She either does a roll, or at least a spin when she's in queen form, an L button to jump, down to do a little step, and an R to do a backflip. Much like how I do here, combined with all of them. But that's literally it. That's all of the songs done, and now Vib-Ribbon. There's a bit of variation as you can see, because I hit the top score. Yeah, that's what I mean. If you literally hit the gold score of it, that means she will perform something just completely different area. It means that the celebration screen, or at least, I don't know, theme tune, goes on for a bit longer. That just somewhat is more of a reward here and there. You can also just look at your high scores, but I'm pretty sure you would know that, since most games have that here and there, don't they? But that's pretty much all there is to say about Disc 1. And in part 2, this is where the true possibilities of this game are unleashed. Because we've only played through the Vib-Ribbon disc. Or at least for my setup for what I'm doing, I'm playing it on the PSN version because it's just cheaper to get. But we're going to be looking at playing with my own choice of CD. That's right. You are actually able to put any CD in the world, or even burn a song to a CD, and play any song in the world on this game, and have it generate its own obstacles based upon the musical track. That is what I was explaining about earlier with why there are different experimentations of music for Laugh and Peace. So I hope you enjoyed part 1 of Vib-Ribbon, and join me in part 2 where we take a look at the CD functionality. It's brilliant, believe me.